Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4. Alright, I know I'm probably gonna get downvoted again, but the truth of the matter is, I wasn't exactly a fan of this episode. Now, I will say on my first viewing of it, there were times that I did enjoy myself and like what I was seeing. Other times, not so much, but I did think it was an okay episode for what it was, despite me feeling like something was off about it. It was only until the second viewing that I realized the glaring mistakes here that really lowered my opinion of it. But let's start from the beginning. Now, after having narrowly escaped Vader, Ben and Tala end up on Jabeam, where Ben is being healed from his wounds in a bacta tank in the headquarters of the Path Resistance group. I really liked the cuts going back and forth between Ben healing in the bacta tank and Vader, in his pain in his own tank on Mustafar. It was a pretty good transition between the two, but honestly, I felt like this was a missed opportunity for Ben to have a flashback of the Clone Wars, perhaps getting a scene with Obi-Wan and Anakin in Jedi battle armor as they lead the clones on some mission. Now, that would have been amazing to see here in live action, am I right? And considering the Book of Boba Fett basically spoiled us with back-to-tank flashbacks for like the first 3 or 4 episodes, then I was honestly a bit surprised that we didn't get anything like that here, even though this would have been a great opportunity to do so. I mean, we got Hayden on the show, so might as well make some use of him as Anakin, am I right? Anyway, after realizing Leia was captured, Ben and Tala travel to the ocean moon of Nur to infiltrate the Fortress Inquisitorius. And so far, so good. I like the references here that we get to Jedi Fallen Order as Cal and Ben sneak inside the base exactly in the same manner. While I also enjoyed Tala's confidence as she basically lied her way inside a base that she had no right of being in, especially how much security and confidential information this base has. And it was great, but unfortunately it's at this part where we start seeing the show's bad writing and, fan filmish elements start to pop in. There are terrible scenes of Tala at an Imperial terminal speaking rather loudly to Ben, all while sitting next to some Imperials nearby, with one of them even turning their head toward her at one point and then looking back, which I can only imagine the guy was like, "Hey, shh, we know you're a spy and all, but quiet down already, some of us are trying to get some work done here." Yeah, there's even one part where Tala ends up taking out an officer to avoid blowing her cover, which as she's trying to knock the guy out, he's also attempting to resist, and there's an audible scuffle being heard between them, naturally. But yet, none of the 4 other people in the room even bat an eye to this. They basically ignore it, which is pretty ridiculous considering how quiet this room is. So I would think it'd be pretty easy to hear some commotion happen about 8 or 10 steps behind everyone, but nope. Either this room is filled with deaf Imperials, or they're willfully ignorant to what's going on around them. Then there's this entire scene, several scenes of Reva trying to interrogate Leia for details on the path, which are essentially filler here as nothing exactly happens in these scenes. And again, it's ridiculous on why Reva even thinks that Leia would know something about that, considering the only reason she's even in this mess is because, well, yeah, you guessed it, Reva. I will say I did like how Reva's mind-reading ability had absolutely no effect on Leia due to her being, strong in the Force, but at the same time, I was surprised not to see Reva make at least a mention of it, at all. I mean, I don't know, if I was an Inquisitor with such an ability to read minds and for some reason it ain't working on a 10-year-old kid, then I'm seriously going to question my own abilities or use that as a sign that the kid is Force sensitive. But none of that happens here, though. Fortunately, the parts of Ben being somewhat stealthy in the base were at least fun to watch. especially as he tries to avoid the secret droids and the stormtroopers all over the facility, which is a nice reference to him doing exactly that in A New Hope on the Death Star. But it's just a bummer that there wasn't enough of this in this episode. Ben eventually stumbles upon what looks to be a trophy vault filled with preserved corpses, well, bodies of the fallen Jedi from Order 66. And while on my first viewing I thought this was pretty darn cool. Although I soon realized after just how little sense this actually makes in the lore. As in Rebels, we do see that the Jedi that the Empire does have are essentially rotting corpses in these high-tech coffins. Which, yeah, that makes perfect sense. While here, it looks like Jedi who were alive and then preserved in, I don't know, some kind of space amber? It just looks and feels bizarre, as we know the Jedi were getting killed left and right by either clone trooper blasters, explosions from detonators, tanks, starfighters, what have you, or simply sliced to pieces by Vader. So there ain't no way that the Empire detained this many Jedi and ended up preserving them alive in this space amber just for kicks. Or at least in this kind of pristine condition. Last I checked, the Jedi were always killed on sight, and that's it. So yeah, this scene made no sense and was, I guess, made up here just for the cool and shock value of it all. Then later we get this goofy scene between Reva and Tala, which is of course a distraction so Ben can get to Leia safely. Reva asks Tala if she's a spy, she says no, then Reva says you're lying to me, Tala says okay fine I am, but I'm spying on the rebels. Then Reva says okay how can I trust you that you're not lying to me, and well, rather than using her powers of reading Tala's mind, we keep getting this pointless back and forth between them. What can I say, it's just not a good scene at all. Then once the alarm bells start ringing and Reva leaves, Tala ends up taking out 2 stormtroopers in the most goofy, cartoonish way possible, giving the least amount of effort to do this, and that was already ridiculous. How many times did I say ridiculous here? To me on my first viewing. Maybe, just maybe, this could have happened post-Endor on The Mandalorian, as by then the stormtrooper quality levels were at the lowest point. But come on, here, during the height of the Empire and stormtroopers being the elite of the Empire? You're telling me that it's this simple to take out a pair of elite guards? Yeah, right. Give me a break. Ridiculous is not even the word, and I think I've already said that 4 times in this video. Like, the left trooper literally just stands there like an idiot waiting for her to grab his helmet and to take him out. And yeah, I get Tala is supposed to be a badass, I like her character, and I'm fine with her being able to kick butt when needed. But at least do it in a believable manner. This was just too cartoonish to really take seriously. Anyway, the hallway sequence that we do get here with Ben trying to escape the troopers in the hallways with Leia was pretty cool. I especially like that Ben now has no hesitations in igniting his lightsaber, and it was great to see him fight low-level goons while using it. I would say that it's rather a bit convenient with him being, so rusty with it in the previous episode, yet here he's looking like his Clone Wars days as he literally blocks every single shot with it. Didn't exactly seem to make too much sense, maybe if he got shot a few times or looked like he was struggling a little bit, then okay. But, well, considering his ace pistol skills from before with no practice whatsoever, then fine, I'll let this one pass. The whole using the Force to hold back the water is what I'd say is one of the standout parts of Episode 4, for me at least. Being the second time in the series where Ben has to force himself to, well, use the Force in another live or die situation. And it just works here. Also, we get a pretty good look here of the new phase Purge troopers that look pretty cool. Far more Imperial-like than the Phase 1 armor, and I'm liking that. I'm willing to bet that it's gonna be these guys we're gonna be seeing show up in Jedi Survivor. My only one gripe with them is seeing them use E11D blasters rather than the DC-15A that Purge Troopers are best known for. And I got a feeling this is largely due to budgetary reasons, and I think that will probably have many casuals thinking that these are Death Troopers rather than Purge Troopers. But yeah, that's more so of a nitpick here than anything. We afterwards get another comical and bizarre scene as Tala, Ben, and Leia try to sneak off the base's hangar. And the fact that no one notices what is essentially a homeless man with a beard hiding what looks to be a little person under his trench coat. I mean, I have absolutely no idea what else to say here. I'm speechless at how tragic the writing here is, with the writers probably thinking what an ingenious idea this is to escape an Imperial base, and people are gonna applaud them for deciding to put this in the show. That's just how bad this is. I mean, they even have Leia peeking out of the coat at one point. Like, they gotta know themselves of how dumb this is, yet go along with it, right? Reva then shows and calls out the trio before they can make their escape, because, well, yeah. Had she not said anything, you darn well know Ben and Leia would have been able to get off this highly guarded planet in such a wacky and laughable manner. But then again, the level of absurd just ends up being amplified here, as out of nowhere, two airspeeders show up and start wrecking shop. As simply for eye candy, I'll admit this was neat to see. But things go sour real quick once you actually start to think about all of this. Like, how did the airspeeders know that was the right time to strike? Lucky guess maybe? Yeah, right. Yet another convenient turning point in this series due to bad writing. Also, there's no way everyone around Reva got blasted into smithereens, yet she's still standing. Her saber can't deflect such powerful shots, yet somehow she does it here. Same with neither Ben or Leia or Tala getting shot during the whole mayhem. They're still severely outnumbered and surrounded by Imperials from every corner, yet they're able to aimbot everyone there and leave without a scratch. Okay then, and when the airspeeders do leave after picking up the trio to safety, can someone please tell me why no TIE fighters are being deployed to chase after them? Despite there obviously being plenty in the hangar just sitting there, yet none are being used, especially when airspeeders are far more weaker than TIEs. But yeah, nope, don't deploy anything and let the intruders simply escape without any consequence. Yeah, sure, fine. At the end, we do get a furious Vader barging into the Inquisitor war room, which was good to see. That's probably my second standout moment in this episode. And while for a brief second or two it looks like he's about to kill Reva, I knew darn well that they would have to make something up here in order to save her, as there's no way Reva is dying with there still being 2 more episodes left. And yeah, I was right. Reva saves herself by telling Vader she put out a tracking device on Leia's droid Lola, which I'm sure is going to lead the Empire straight to the Path base on Jabeam. And I suppose we can now say that it's from Reva where Vader learned to put a tracking device on the Millennium Falcon in A New Hope. Personally, I don't really care that much, but I can see people not being crazy about this little new fact being decided in here. Then again, if we go by what we've seen in both Rebels and the comics, especially at this early phase of Vader, he most likely would have ended Reva right here and now, but you know, the rating for the show is what it is. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I originally didn't mind this episode, but a second viewing pretty much crippled it for me due to all of the nonsensical writing. I enjoyed the Fallen Order references here, but it's no secret that this was one big homage to A New Hope. And well, it's a much more inferior version of that movie, which is unfortunate. But what also honestly surprised me was just how short this episode was. Which is yet another disappointment of mine here. We only get 6 episodes in total, just to remind everyone. So yeah, not too much there, and I wouldn't really have a problem with that if the episodes each were an hour long. But this one here was only like 30 minutes or so? It went by fairly quickly, and it feels like Lucasfilm are trying to rush to finish off the series just to get it over with. And it just makes me think, why? Why the rush? You have the series, you can make a lot of money with it by, giving us a lot of episodes going in depth with the characters more, Obi-Wan, Anakin, giving us a lot of Clone Wars flashback scenes. I guarantee you no one would complain about that. And yet we get this, which is just trying to rush itself and rely a lot too much on Reva and Leia than it should. It should be relying on Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yeah, it really pains me to speak so poorly of it, but once I see the short runtimes, the CW level writing, the lack of a good soundtrack, and more so comedic moments that should be in some cartoon than say a gritty show with plenty of tension focusing primarily on Obi-Wan and Vader rather than Leia and Reva, well then, I don't know, I guess I start feeling a lot less bad about talking down about it. And that was my take on this episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me know what you all thought about the episode in the comments below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.